hi everyone. So I'm here with Brent. Actually, we met like years ago when I was still living in San Francisco, and like 6 years ago, something like that.
Longer, I think.
Longer even. So anyway,
like 2010 maybe.
We met because back in the days, I was kind of doing this meetup called Hack Democracy. And so Brent is also into all of those type of movement. He was the founder of Carrotmob. Carrotmob, can you tell us quickly what Carrotmob is all about?
Yeah, so Carrotmob, I had a background in activism when I was in college and got really frustrated with a lot of traditional methods of changing the world, and I was really interested in changing businesses. And so I came up with this model which is the opposite of a boycott. Basically, in a boycott, you go to a business and you say, hey, here's what we want you to do. You're not doing it. We hate you. You'll never see us again. And in the Carrotmob, instead, you go to the business, you say, hey, here's what we want you to do. You're not doing it. That's fine. You don't have to do it. But just so you know, if you do what we're asking, we're going to show up and spend so much money to reward you that it's going to become profitable for you to do this thing that we're asking. So, for example, the first one that we did was in 2008, and I went to 23 liquor stores in San Francisco and said, hey, whichever one of you stores does the most environmentally friendly thing, we're going to all come and buy everything you have at your store. And so there was a competition, and so we did that, and this place had a huge amount of sales, over $9,000, people just buying beer. And then they made all these changes to their store. And so that, we made a video and it went viral and it started spreading around to all over Europe and all over the world with hundreds of these campaigns. People saying, hey, we're going to do this in our neighborhood, and it became this sort of global movement.
That's great, because now especially we talk about climate change, right? It's a big topic and a big fight for our generation, right? And we talk about climate change and system change instead of climate change. So the question is, I love that. I think taking the positive aspect of it, I think it's really powerful. So, there are movements now like zero waste, for example, that would be really suitable for these type of things. So how could, let's say that, okay, I'm an activist, I'm in Brussels, I'm in Paris, I'm in any city, really. I want to make sure that a given place becomes zero waste. What would be your tips, to organize a Carrotmob for that?
Yeah, well, the thing that is the strategy that most activists take are government policy, and that's good because when you succeed at that, it's very powerful. But a lot of what the government policy is actually trying to do is change businesses, right? Like, we want you to not have these plastic containers, or we want you to change these practices, right? And so what's interesting about innovations like Carrotmob is that you can find direct ways to change businesses that just happen without waiting for the government to step in.
Yeah.
And so
and that's good news, because in Belgium we don't have a government at the moment. But yeah, I believe really, and that was the whole point of this thing that we were trying to do with citizenspring, is to tell people look, you have the power. People totally underestimate how much power they have.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think Carrotmob is a great example of that. But so how would you start?
Well,
I want to turn this business into a zero waste business, for example. What do you do?
So, the insight behind this movement has been that you can change business decision making with the right financial data or information about how they're going to make more money. And of course, many businesses care, but ultimately they need sort of financial evidence that this is a good decision. So what we would do is go to a business and sort of, if you can get a sense of okay, I think here's a change we can ask them to make that's going to be reasonably meaningful but not super expensive, so that we can bring enough people that would actually make it worthwhile. And if you find that arrangement, then you can do it. And so that's what Carrotmobs, they still happen, and that's kind of how they happen, mostly at the level of a small business in a neighborhood or community or university or some group that can come. But we've had hundreds of these campaigns, but we haven't had millions of these campaigns. And so the new product that I'm working on now is sort of designed to take that same idea of creating the financial data that's going to drive business change, but we have a new way to do it that's easier and more
Yeah, I mean that's a good segue. I definitely want to talk about that. I think it's super useful. But I think like for example, like people have been asking, like, you know, recently, I don't know if you've been following in Europe, like there's been a lot of march for the climate, right?
Yep.
People, students every Thursday going on there. Every Sunday or so, like there was other demonstrations, and people often ask, like, okay, what's the utility of that, right? Because really, like, you know, it's just like marching on the streets. And to me, like, one thing that people underestimate is the signaling that it creates. Is that, like, look, people actually care. So if you're gonna start a business, a shop, well, you better offer like vegan options, for example, right? Because there are so many people who start caring about those issues, which is really important, right? But so, like, I guess what you're trying to offer here is a way to more like focus on a particular business, right? And then creating the right incentives for people. Right. So tell us more about, like, what your product is.
The new idea.
The next phase, like the Carrotmob 2.0.
Yeah. So even the problem with Carrotmob scaling it was that we never found the right product. We never found the right business model, and that was why we couldn't really take it to the next level. But no matter what we did, people loved it, and everyone's like, "Yes, I'm showing up to participate. Sure. Yes, the business says this is great marketing. We love it," and so when it didn't work out, I was thinking, okay, why? Like, we had something. What is it? And the biggest lesson is sort of obvious, but people want to vote with their money. When we buy things, we want that to be an expression of our values and our power, and we want to feel like our purchase matters and that we can have integrity when we're making these decisions and all this stuff. And so this idea of voting with your money, it's not new, it's old. It's thousands of years old. We've been doing that since we were weaving baskets and like, okay, who should I trade my apples for? Like, the nice guy or the mean guy? Oh, I'm gonna screw the mean guy. Like, that's voting with your money. This has been going on forever. And so why isn't there an app for that?
Yeah, but the problem is that, like, people have only been optimizing for the amount, right? They were just trying to get the cheapest apple.
No, I think there's always been an emotional component to it, and you're right. Sometimes, not always. It's case by case. Yeah. But, like, always the emotional component is actually how we as humans make decisions. Yeah. And so it's a mix, but it's been a bit ambiguous.
But it's changing. I mean, I think that's the key thing with the new generation, really. That it used to be that we only want to optimize for money, make the most money, and now you can see that, especially in the new generation, people care about, okay, is it organic? Is it locally produced? Is it, like, that's kind of new.
Yes, there's an increasing understanding of our ability, of the idea that businesses can be good actors and our ability to influence that. You're right about that, yeah. So anyway, if this is such a core thing, why isn't there an app for voting with your money? What would it look like if there were? And so that's what we've built, and the new company is called MoneyVoice. We're going to give your money a voice. So the way it works, it's an app, and when you install it, you create your account and you link a payment card, like a debit or credit card, and what that does is it imports data about your transactions, where you've spent money, how much you've spent. And that means that every time you spend money at any business, you earn the right to vote for what you want that business to do. So you go to your local Brussels grocery store, and then the next day you get a notification, oh, you spent, 72 euro at this place, like, you've earned the vote. And you're like, of course I deserve the right to vote. I just gave you 72 euro. Obviously I deserve to have a say. And so you'd open up the app, and on each business has its little screen, and on this grocery store you could see, 5,000 people voted for please get more shopping carts, 4,000 people voted for give a raise to Beatrice, she is delightful, like, or please put up solar panels, or please put a woman on your board of directors, or please stop selling this unhealthy thing. And there could be hundreds of options to choose.
So it's also actually a great way for businesses, because now they can actually get feedback from people who actually consume, right, in their place.
Yeah, so for you, it's like, oh, good, I'm going to be heard, it's power, and they can see that it's my money, so I'm going to get more attention than Twitter or Yelp or some of these other places. And you feel more empowered because you can team up with other people. But for them, if we're going to go to them and say, hey, grocery store, did you know we've got 10,000 of your verified customers giving you feedback? Do you want to see it and respond to it for free? And I don't know about your grocery store, but most grocery stores are like, no one gives us feedback. No one uses our app. We don't have anyone's phone number, email address. How did you do that? How did you get real verified? How did you know they're real customers? Like, how did you get them? We're like, well, we just gave them a better way to give feedback. So they're excited to see this information. And then the business that we're building is so they can sort of see it and respond. And then if they would like to see the financial data behind it, to be able to say, oh, 5,000 people asked for this. Okay, well, I'm going to pay our company to see how much money do those people spend. What percentage of those people are loyal customers? Can we predict how much we'll have a sales increase if we put up solar panels like these people asked? Will we increase loyalty? And that's the kind of predictive analytics, which is very valuable. And so we're going to be able to offer that as a business, and meanwhile give activists like us this massive tool to...
Yeah, because I think it's one thing for local business, but I think where it can really make a difference is, it can make a difference at every level, I guess, but how do we tell, for example, Nutella, stop using palm oil, right?
Yeah.
But there's got to be enough people who can show that, look, together we represent that many people.
That's right. And the thing is, there's right now, how is Nutella? There's someone at Nutella whose job it is to figure that out, and they're looking and they see a protest on the street somewhere, and they just it's their job to fit that into a sales spreadsheet. But they don't know how. And they look at the tweets and they see a petition and they see all of this, and they just say, well, I just have a wild guess. We don't know if a single customer of ours actually cares about this palm oil issue. And so all we then do is we say, hey, when you tap to vote in MoneyVoice, you're taking your messy human values and emotions and very qualitative, and you're translating that into data, money, and it just goes straight into a spreadsheet. And so that person can see, oh, now, before we knew it would cost us $3 million to switch to this palm oil thing, but we didn't know if there would be a return on investment, so we didn't do it. Now we know that there's going to be a $5 million return on investment, so we're going to do it immediately. And we don't have to wait for the government to tell us to do it. We're already doing it.
So what's blocking you right now?
So we have done this, we've been working on this. We've built an app. It's a consumer app. It's only available in the United States right now. And we've been able to do a bunch of tests and experiments and sort of prove that people like this and that it works on a small scale. But what we haven't done yet is launch the product for businesses. So it's really only half launched. So what's blocking us is money. And so right now, I'm so glad you asked, that we have a crowd investing campaign, which we're going to, in the next 23 days, raise $1 million or or die trying. And so so we're raising money, and anyone in the world can invest from as little as $100 up to $100,000 and own a piece of MoneyVoice. And what we're gonna do is hopefully build and launch this tool that's going to really change the game for activists, and also build an amazingly valuable business if this works well, and be able to provide a big financial return.
So is this going to be a B Corp, or how do you look at this?
So we're a Delaware Public Benefit Corporation.
Great.
So we've got impact.
So Kickstarter or Etsy and all of those companies that basically, unlike C Corps, have a mission. Right, and they cannot be sued by their shareholders if they don't,
That's right.
If they put profit after the mission.
That's right. So that's written into our articles of incorporation, and obviously just look at me, I'm a hardcore activist,
We just find out because I was talking that I'm in Brussels and I moved into this place where there are people also part of Extinction Rebellion, right? That is this new global movement now starting in the UK to do civic disobedience for the climate. And so there is a chapter in San Francisco.
Yeah, those are my people. I mean, I'm very hardcore on the climate stuff. I mean, it really should be a mainstream. I don't know why no one else is. It feels all radical.
I wanted to ask you about that because I've just been here back for a week or so, and so I just moved back to Brussels like 3 months ago, and what amazed me is that it seems like San Francisco is somewhat isolated. I don't see that many citizen initiatives here, or maybe I'm not in the right networks. I don't know. Tell me. In Europe, there are so many citizen initiatives happening right now, especially around the climate.
It's. I think there's a lot in the Bay Area. I think San Francisco, they're decreasing because the city is full of money.
Yeah.
And a lot of people. There's a housing crisis here. People have been moving out. Teachers can't live here. All kinds of artists can't live here, and so. Here in Oakland, we've got it's perhaps increasing that sort of activity, but yeah, no, we're around, but still, there's just San Francisco is not quite the same city that it was when you lived here.
yeah, it definitely had changed.
Yeah,
but on one side, there's been plastic bags have been banned forever in San Francisco. There is a big.
Well, there's been a tax.
But they've been banned too, no? I remember when I was living here, at some point, it was impossible to get those at the...
I don't remember the specifics.
Paper bags. Or...
Yeah. I think that there's... Well, whatever. I shouldn't talk about things. I don't remember the specifics of where that's...
Because the key really, what I've been noticing and basically trying to spend my time on right now is how do we empower citizens to do more?
Yeah.
Right? Because they totally underestimate the power that they have. Governments are just unsuited to basically address the problem of climate change. Yeah. Right? Because it's not going to be at the national level that is going to happen. It's going to be at the city level and at the global level. Right? And so that's why I really like your new app, MoneyVoice. But so I wonder also how can we turn that maybe more like Carrotmob style into a movement? Beyond just being an app, is there a way to enable people in any city, this is a tool, and there are many others, but this is one tool that you can use in the toolbox of the citizen of the 21st century.
Yes.
That wants to do something, that wants to make change happen.
Absolutely, and for me, I see it's very much not yet in its final form as an organizing tool, but here's what is going to be possible to do. Right now, you can create a piece of feedback for any business. Mm-hmm. You can write it, and then you can share a link to that with your friends. And be like, hey, I wrote this. Vote for me.
Yep.
And what we're also going to make really easy is for organizations to do that. So Extinction Rebellion could, or any NGO or a school or any group could say, hey, I'm going to ask this business to do this. And then if you've got 1 million followers, then we can send them a note that says so suddenly you can really quickly,
because it could be an MVP, it could be actually it doesn't matter. I mean, it's nice to have the proof based on the credit card or whatever, but even without that, it's still useful. I could totally see Extinction Rebellion in Europe, for example, doing those type of campaigns, right? But so I know that it's going to be complicated for you to interface with the European credit card system, for example, but just being able to give me a tool to, I want, Nutella to stop palm oil, or I want this Carrefour or grocery store, supermarket to stop using, whatnot.
And again, I think that actually having the financial data linked is pretty critical, because you could already do that. You could already do a petition today to those businesses, and it's pretty much the same. I think that the financial institution is critical. Hopefully it won't be too long until we can launch the full product there. But anyway, I guess to get to the point of the future citizens, what they can do. I mean, in my mind, there's a whole lot of things that are available that are real expressions of power, but are very difficult and very time consuming. So doing these big elaborate protests and stuff, a lot of people say, well, I'm busy. I've got 3 kids or whatever, that they're not able to participate. And then you've got things that are very easy to do, like tweeting and social media posts, maybe donate a few bucks and whatever, but they're not real expressions of power.
Yeah. Clicktivism, right?
Clicktivism.
Yeah.
And so the hope is that MoneyVoice can be something that is both very easy.
Yeah.
You can do this for 2 minutes once a week. You're like, let me use my votes for the week. Oh yeah, climate thing, social justice, whatever, customer service, whatever. And then, yet you know that it's real power because money is power, and you're able to actually see that businesses are changing as a result. And so that's the goal, is that this becomes like sort of the first thing that kind of is able to do both of those at once. And ultimately, when I look broadly at what capitalism is like its role in our world right now, it's confusing because it's sort of, in theory, capitalism delivers whatever the people want. And we look at the world that has been delivered and we're like, this is not what we want. And so that's like this weird, why is it not giving us what we want? And the answer to that, I believe, is that when we want something like clean air or clean water or justice, like, there is no data to show the ROI of that, of delivering that. And so the financial markets, it's not like that value isn't there, it's that they can't see it, it's invisible to them. And so this is where we want to go, and capitalism is taking us this direction. And the hope is that in this app, if we can sort of create this data, be like, oh, here's my desire for clean water that you can now see in your spreadsheets, then we're like revealing this financial opportunity. Like, yes, you can make so much money off me if you do this, that sort of it will bring where we're going into alignment with where we want to be.
No, it's great. I mean, there's been a lot of talks recently about but is it the end of capitalism and all of those type of things? I mean, my view, I think it's more about, we need to upgrade capitalism. It's kind of capitalism 2.0.
Yeah.
The first version was only optimizing about one data point, which was amount of money. And now it's about integrating more data points, part of the environment, part of what people care about, right? Local communities, and indeed, being able to actually put numbers on those things would be tremendously useful. Basically, it's about facilitating, helping, making it easier for businesses to take into account those data points. Because I guess a big change that happened is, before, businesses didn't have to care because money could buy everything.
Yeah.
You could be on CNN, right? Put an ad.
Yeah.
You just need money.
Yeah.
And then everybody will get the message. But now with social media, the only way people are going to get the message is because one of their friends is relaying, forwarding the message, which means that you need to give reasons for people, right? A mission, something that they can relate to, so that, yes, I actually believe in that, so I'm going to do something, I'm going to share it to my own network, right? And so all of that makes it so that, to me, successful businesses moving forward are actually going to be public benefit companies.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have naturally, organically, a bigger reach.
That's right. There's the stat that I know, it's something like this. In 1980, tangible assets, things a business owned, represented about, it represented 95% of corporate value, and brand value, the sort of intangible brand, it represented 5% of corporate value. And now, brand is 30 or 40% of corporate value.
Okay, I would have thought even more.
Yeah.
But,
So which is just an illustration of exactly what you just said. And it's very empowering when you realize that 30% of corporate value, brand, we control it. We decide what your brand is.
Yeah. It's a shared. It's a shared belief.
Yeah.
That we believe collectively that this brand is good or not.
Yeah. And so it's kind of this kind of product can just formalize our control over those brands. And if we say this, that's going to be the thing that is popping up so every other customer can see it on your permanent record. And so that's really powerful.
That's great.
Yeah.
So maybe one last question is, have you thought about doing this in open source?
A little bit. I haven't gone super deep. There's just enough things to juggle here, but I should go back to that conversation where we decided we didn't think it was a good idea. I don't know. I forget if it was around like a security privacy thing, or
because in the spirit
what.
of turning that into a movement, right? Because I could see that being successful here in the US, but
Yeah.
there is no reason that it wouldn't be in Europe as well, and so and other places in the world. And so again, in the spirit of empowering citizens, right? And accepting the fact that the local reality is very different. So you cannot possibly at the same time tackle the American and European market, right?
Well, why?
Because local realities are different, and because you need to focus, you need to make it. I love to. I always use this image when I talk to an entrepreneur. Is as an entrepreneur doing a new product, like you need to learn to swim in the swimming pool before getting into the ocean. It's already so hard enough.
Yeah.
That why are you making your life more complicated? So do it only in one language, do it only in one place, make it work maybe in Oakland or California before trying to get, and then once you make it work there, then sure, like open it up, right?
Well, here's another thing just to mention about the nature of the problems that we're solving, right? Climate change, transnational, global, human rights, same thing. Supply chains are everywhere. How do we... And so we've been using these old tools, which are governments, which are awkward because they can't reach across.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we don't know what's going in Pakistan, so sorry, like we can't help. But there's something that happens when you're dealing with these large global companies like Nestle or something like. They are already global. They actually, if they make a change, it can go quickly, like more effectively than maybe like the UN could do that.
Yeah.
And so there is a sense in which I see what we're doing as like a global layer of democracy in this like global system. And I think there's the inputs which need to come from thousands of different financial institutions. And you're right, international languages and stuff, that's, it's a lot of work, but it's solvable.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think if you end up having like a bunch of different versions of it that sort of maybe aren't totally interoperable or don't have the kind of, there's just not a unified experience, then the question is, do you fail to get like everyone in the world getting Nestle at the same time because it's sort of splintered? Or if I go traveling to Belgium, do I have to like switch apps or like? So I mean, there may be a way, and I think what I have thought a lot about is ways to use. I actually have thought of like parts of this that do make sense for open source, and like a future idea that there's this like decentralized personal data sort of way that you could do it. So there's a lot there which I think makes sense to sort of open up. But yeah, I guess I'm not convinced yet, and I don't. Really, this isn't like me being like, I know the answer. Like, I just haven't had time to think about it.
I mean, I think like there is no one answer. There are multiple ways to get to a point, right? It's just like for Open Collective, like at the beginning we were not open source. So are you familiar with Open Collective?
A little bit, but I'd love to hear you.
So yeah, because when we met the first time, like I was doing Storyfy, right, which was this platform for telling stories using social media. And so we saw the company, and then I moved to New York, and I realized that through my own experience that, wow, the internet has made it super easy for people to organize, to form communities, right, around shared mission projects. Mm-hmm. But once there is money involved, you still need to go back to the 20th century and create a legal entity, a 501c3 or whatnot, and it's a massive pain to do, right? Yeah. And because of that, most communities, online communities, or even meetup groups, they don't have any place to receive money. They don't have any budget. Right. So they're very limited in what they can do. Even though there are plenty of people who actually would love to support them financially. Yeah. Right? And so I ran into that issue myself. We were doing this Startup Manifesto thing in Belgium, and then I was doing an open source project. And so And that's how I basically decided to start Open Collective to address that very problem. And the way we solve it is by virtualizing existing legal entities. So the idea is to have like, okay, if there is like, we can create one legal entity for open source community, and well, every single open source community doesn't have to go through the same pain. Like we can share, like you share a house. Yeah. right? Or you share a web server and you have multiple websites on one same server, so that you mutualize the sysadmin and so on. Well, actually, you could mutualize the accounting service, the legal service, and all of that, right?
Kind of like fiscal sponsorship.
It is fiscal sponsorship, but at scale.
Yeah.
And we do that because there is an online platform that makes sure that every single transaction is fully public, so that it reduces the risk that you take. And so now we have 1,000 communities, open source communities, for example. And we enable all of those open source projects, for example, to receive money from companies like Facebook, Airbnb, Slack, and many Google, and so on. Like, they couldn't give money to those communities before, even though they were using their product, right, in their stack.
Yeah.
There was no way for them to give them money because they need an invoice.
Right.
So that's what we do.
That's cool.
And so like what we want to do next is kind of, okay, like it's open source has kind of been our beachhead because of the nature of it. They're all distributed teams, right? And so for them, like, they want to code, they don't want to create a legal entity. But we really want to, and that brings us back to the beginning of the conversation, like enable citizens, like bring that as a tool in the toolbox of citizens to be able to quickly, like, okay, I want to do a zero waste meetup, or I want to do something in my city. Like, how can I quickly create, a virtual legal entity and start collecting money and and do that. And so, because the question was about open source, at the beginning we were not open source because we thought like, but no, what about security? What about like our code is not clean and all of those different excuses. And then we flipped the switch and we decided to go open source, and no regrets whatsoever. So quite the opposite, because the reality is that nobody is gonna steal your code. Nobody stole our code. Like, we do like MIT license, so the most permissive whatsoever. It gives people trust. They can see what you do with your data. They can, they can really trust. And I think especially for the things you do with financial data, the trust is huge. It helps with security because there are more people who can look at it and spot issues and tell you about it. You'll write better code. Your team will write better code because when you know that your code is publicly available, you pay attention. Like, it's not only your boss that can look at the code and now everybody, you get better quality, you get also like better talent, because most talented people, they will write a code for something that brings them an opportunity to do open source, that builds up their portfolio, and all of that. So all of that actually were things that we kind of learn along the way. And then also it enables people like in different parts of the world, like, look, we have no time right now to worry about this particular region in the world, but hey, our code is open source, like, go for it. If they need more help, like, they will come back to us anyway. Right. So that's kind of the experience that we have.
Cool. I'm super down with open source. I just haven't. There's so much to think through with it, that the implications, like, legally, and I'm not even writing code. So I don't even know. Like, I need to talk to my team about it. But yeah, thank you. That's good.
So it's great to see like this new generation of public benefit companies, more open source, more decentralization in cities. So it's great, and I think like if we can now put all of those tools together in a way, to create this toolbox for the 21st century citizen who can really help make change happen for the climate. That could be pretty rad.
Oh my God, so excited.
So thank you for doing what you do. This is great.
And it starts with the first thing that is decentralizing here is ownership of us. So become an owner at wefunder.com.
Good job, I love it.
wefunder.com.
We put the link in the description. Thank you, Brent. It's a pleasure.